Welcome back, maybe, possibly, probably not, to Forced Perspective, the show where I critique works created by people far more talented than myself in a vain attempt at self-affirmation. Big words! Today we'll be taking a look at Logigun, a game that was actually released in 2012, and before that was a freeware game maker game by the same name back in 2007. But it just recently released on Steam. Shut up, it counts! You play as a silent female protagonist, making her way through a science facility, solving puzzles using advanced technology you find within said facility, all while being watched by a constantly lying female overseer. Wait a minute. I think this has happened before.
Space!
Okay, yeah, sure. So, the game. It's a 2D physics-based puzzle platformer, with the entire focus being on the puzzles. There aren't enemies, you can't die, there just aren't any failure states, apart from locking yourself in a small closet and dying what I assume to be a slow and painful death. Yeah, no failure states. So, let's start with your equipment. Throughout the game, you come across 4 different, let's call them guns for lack of a better term, which will or won't be given to you at the beginning of each level, along with your starting shock glove. First, you get the grappling gun, which can pull you to certain grapple points, pull designated items to you, or you to the item based upon their weight, and be used to hit switches. Then there's the platform projector, which can create 2 platforms, with the catch being that you must be standing on the ground to create them, and you can't create them in areas with gas. Next, there's the crossbow, which I would actually call 2 separate items depending on the rule set of the individual level. Sometimes the arrows are affected by gravity as you would expect, but in other levels the arrows are only affected by these gravity orbs. And the arrows can hit switches and be lit on fire, which is useful for clearing out platform-denying gas and igniting bombs. And last but not least, there's a polarity beam gun, which attracts or repels colored boxes in the way you'd expect. Opposites attract, and, well, if you can't figure that out, no offense, but let me just save you some time and tell you that this game probably isn't for you. Now that lengthy and boring explanation of the tools at your disposal is over, I'm gonna cut to the chase here. The puzzle design in this game is great. Just really good. The puzzles are challenging and force you to spend time thinking to solve them. I'm gonna be honest, I almost didn't finish this game. The last few levels had me stumped for longer than I'm willing to admit, and I haven't had that happen in a puzzle game for years. In most of the levels, it didn't feel like I did what I was meant to and completed the level. It felt like I actually beat the level. I bested it. And that satisfaction isn't something I've encountered a lot in puzzle games. But I will say that this is a double-edged sword. If you enjoy puzzle games or like a challenge, this is great. However, if you have trouble or get frustrated with the average puzzle game, then this game is just gonna piss you off. And if you're still here after that, then keep watching, because there's more. The pacing is pretty good. Unlike most puzzle games where the first half of the game is an unchallenging build-up to the later half, Logigun is challenging the whole way through, beginning to end, with the minor exceptions of the introductory levels. And as a final bit of praise before I get to the negatives, I want to say that the UI, while very simple, gives you all the information you need. Can I jump on top of this if I place a platform here? Can the grappling hook reach this? Where will this arrow land? All of these questions are answered very well through the UI. Alright, so as I'm sure you could guess, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. This game does have its problems, the first one being half of its genre. The platforming just doesn't feel right, it's floaty and altogether sluggish. At the beginning of the game, I missed plenty of jumps because I couldn't get used to it. And although by the end of the game it seems normal, the fact that it takes so long to get used to is always going to be a black mark in a puzzle platformer. I mean, it's kinda half the name. And one of the other things that really isn't a true negative, more as a point of confusion, is the hint system. Every few levels will have a large terminal that after a certain amount of time will give you an option of a hint. But they very rarely pop up, and it was never any of the levels I actually needed it in. Which is a shame, because the one hint I actually did use was beautiful in its simplicity. It just shows an image to push you in the right direction. It doesn't ruin the whole level, it's not useless, it's just a small hint, and I wish it was an option in more levels. And then there's the fact that the video options are a little lacking. There aren't any real graphics options, and there aren't any resolution options. And while yes, this game isn't exactly taxing, and you can force the resolution, an in-game option would be nice. But honestly, its main drawback is also its greatest strength. The challenging gameplay will no doubt aggravate many, but at the same time, without it, the game would just be boring. So basically, what I'm trying to say is if you can deal with the challenge, then give this game a try. And if you can't, well, I kind of already told you to leave, so I'm not sure why you're still here. Cliff Notes. Yes, it's a thing. Logigun is a good, challenging puzzle platformer. The end. And they all lived happily ever after. Except for the one that was trapped in the closet. She died. Thanks for... No, not done yet. So, I mentioned way back in the beginning, before I got all serious and ruined everything, that this game began its life as a freeware game maker game. And that's still available on the game's website. So let's take a look at that. So, Logigun, or Logigun Classic if you don't want to sound like you're missing the majority of your brain cells, is a less well-designed version of Logigun, as you might expect. But past that, it also seems like you can break it easier. In the full game, I was pretty sure I wasn't supposed to solve this puzzle this way, and if I was, then good job for making me think that. But in Logigun Classic, I am almost 100% sure that I skipped half the level by doing this. And the main difference, besides the art style, the less challenging gameplay, and the different equipment, is the need for flawless execution. The main challenge, damn I'm using that word a lot, doesn't come from trying to solve the puzzle itself, but from trying to perform the actions that the solution requires. It almost becomes a test of patience at some spots. Take this for example. This isn't a puzzle. It's just trial and error. You can't time this properly with the way the bow works. Just making it so that it has a chance of hitting the target by itself is difficult, let alone when you have to time when the arrow will hit. So it turns into a crapshoot where you just keep rolling the dice until you eventually win. But with all that said, it is the predecessor, and it still does have the same feel, and also it's kind of free, so if $5 is too much for you, then you can download Logigun Classic Edition from the link below. Thanks for watching, for real this time. Click over there to watch the last video I did, and remember, I don't have a catchphrase. Take this for example. I see a rooftop. I'm a ninja. What do you think is gonna happen? Rooftops are like the Ninja International Superhighway. You take a Ninja Exit 47 and it takes you straight to the Ninja Wendy's. So eventually I find an angle to accomplish my noble task and...